everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Hallmark Heartbeats, a podcast all about Hallmark movies. It's been a while since I've been podcasting, mostly because I decided to take a break. But a special movie has just come out, Color My World with Love, and it inspired me to come back. And this week I get to talk with the only man that I know of who can make an amnesiac fall in love with him. The mother of his potential love interest fall in love with him as well, Benjamin Ayres. And if you guys don't know, that is referencing his two other Hallmark movies, Love by Chance and Falling in Vermont. I think
that's right. Falling for Vermont. Yeah.
Those are the movies that like literally introduced me to you, and I loved you in them. They were
thanks. You know what? Those are the two movies that introduced me to Hallmark. I was peripherally aware of obviously the network and that they make these movies, but those were my first two, and you know what a great two to get to start with. It was pretty special.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you heard the news, but your co-star Julie is a new mom.
Yes, I know, and we've actually been messaging. We actually had a long chat last night, so I'm very, very happy for them. I'm going to see them. I'm in Toronto, she's in Los Angeles, but I believe we'll both be in Vancouver at the beginning of July. So we're going to get together, and I can give them all little cuddles. Yeah.
It's so cute. I'm happy for them. But I mean, like you still stay in contact with all of your co-stars?
100%.
That's cool.
Listen, this is the best part about this job, especially the Hallmark world, is we're all kind of aware of one another, of course, but then all of a sudden it's like last minute, there's a movie that's happening. It's this pairing. And all of a sudden you're just best friends, and now you're friends for life. And we message each other on Instagram, texting random funny things, you know, memories, photos from the shoot. It's incredible. I'm so lucky with the great co-stars that I've had.
Yeah, you've worked with many. I mean, last year you did You, Me, and Christmas Trees with Danica. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That was I did not like that movie.
Okay, what didn't you like about it?
It was confusing. And like the whole mystery of what killed all of the trees weren't ever really solved, because we found out.
It doesn't matter about the mystery. It's more of I'm kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, if the center storyline, in my opinion anyway, was like, oh, what's killing the trees? And the movie ends, but we never really solve it. Then what? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I was in the world asking the same questions. I'm like, wait, but what actually is the cause of the trees dying? And like, but they fall in love, so it's all good. And I love your backdrop. I love it. So you're in Hawaii. Where in Hawaii are you?
I'm on Wahiawa, which is the central Oahu. Like, get a map of Oahu and like put your finger right in the middle of it, and that's Wahiawa. That's where I'm at.
Wow, that's cool, right? No, that's why I wanted to wear my shirt for you today. I've spent some time on Maui. And one of my are you born and raised Hawaii?
No, I am born in the Philippines. My dad was in the army, and we moved here because my dad was stationed here, and then he chose to retire here, so we stayed after his retirement and stuff like that. But he did like 24 years in the army.
Wow.
So like the last 4 years was here in Hawaii, and we ended up staying and stuff.
And do you guys go back to
the Philippines? My family does, yes. I haven't been back to the Philippines since 2006.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is it's emotional. I do have to say.
What's emotional? The thought of going back, or not being there anymore?
The last time I went to the Philippines, I was sad. I was really, really sad because of the poverty in the Philippines. Like, we're not I'm not rich in the Philippines. We're not, I mean, in America, I'm not like, well off or anything. My family isn't well off at all. We see poverty here in the United States as well. But I feel like in comparison to the poverty in the Philippines, it's not even comparable. It was really sad to me watching homeless kids like begging on the street, and and like I'm sitting there. I remember my uncle telling my uncle, I was like, if they don't go to school, how are they gonna get out of the streets? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I feel like going to school is the only way for people to actually God, I'm gonna cry.
No, it's okay. I must be so sad, especially to go back. It's I mean, it's probably the fact that it changed so much from when you remember when you were younger and you look at it through a different lens
Yeah.
and perspective. That's what traveling gives you, and that must
Yeah.
have been hard to go back.
I mean, I'm left the Philippines when I was 7, so I don't really have that much memory of the Philippines from when I was younger. But when I went back to visit in 2006, I just remember getting emotionally hurt and just like changed, really seeing all of that, because it reminds you that like you're lucky, you know what I mean, like
Right.
you're really, really lucky, and like there's nothing, like life is hard and effed up, but at this point, like I have people who love me, I have food on the table, I have roof over my head, you know what I mean? It's like it could be a heck of a lot worse, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
but yeah, it was that was hard for me seeing that.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. I wanted to know a bit of your backstory,
Yeah, I mean, my backstory is complicated. I mean, I told this, the reason why I color my world with love was such a touching, something that I was inspired to come back from my break on, is because it is a story about the disabled community, and it's something that I've advocated for, is to tell stories of the disabled. What was the thing that attracted you to the script, would you say, that made you go, oh, I need to try out for this, or I need to do this? Or
I mean, just like you said, I mean, the first point of contact of that script for me was Peter Benson directing it, who is one of, do you know Peter Benson? Yeah.
Yes,
so great. He's been one of my best friends forever. So we already have a great chemistry, and we've always wanted to work together. We never knew if it was going to be a Christmas movie, a mystery movie, what it was going to be. We've acted together in Hallmark movies, and we're like, eventually we'll get to do one where I'm acting and he's directing. So I knew that he was involved. I knew that Erica Durance was involved, and I love Erica.
She's
the biggest
a great
heart.
actress.
She's unbelievable, and she really carries this film in a way that people are going to be blown away by. It's a real tour de force for her, and her and I worked on a show for 5 seasons called Saving Hope. So I've known her for a very long time. So those two things were my first in. So already I was, it didn't matter what the project was, I was just like on board. And then I got the script, and Peter had told me beforehand loosely kind of what it was about. And I was like, no, how is that executed? I guess I'll read the script and kind of find out. And basically the second page, I was crying. The moment where she's painting and, that woman is watching and says, I didn't think people like that could do that. People like what? And just that whole exchange, I was like, oh, I hope they don't cut this. And to me, that was a very, it was a great introduction into the world and the strength of Lily's character and how she handles it. And Emma, her mom, it was just such a beautiful moment. I was just in right then. It didn't take me. I was just like, sign me up. I don't need to read all 99 pages.
I texted you after watching that scene. It was like, what is going on? It was like the first 2 minutes, and I'm sitting there going, dude, this movie just hit me. What the heck?
Have the Kleenex ready.
And actually think a lot of people in the disabled community can relate to that scene so much because we do things and people are like, oh, I can't believe you were able to do that. I'm like, why? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, what's interesting for me too is, so that's, your perspective in watching that movie is going to be so specific and different from mine because, the way even watching Lily and David navigate the world is very similar to their characters in there. And for me, I was protective, but then realized quite quickly they have learned to protect themselves and deal with those situations in a way that I have yet to deal with, right? So just me standing in a hotel lobby talking with them and just kind of like telling jokes or just kind of hanging out with my friends, but then the looks people would give, and I'd kind of have this like, what are you looking at? Sort of as if I was judging them for judging us, when really I'm like, whatever, I get it. It's for some people, that's just not their reality, and they don't have any, I didn't have a lot of experience going into it beforehand, and I was just so happy to get to meet them and, have these two great friends now.
Yeah. I said this before, so sometimes the disabled community is the forgotten community because there's so many, we have Pride Month, right? This is Pride Month for the LGBTQ plus community. We have AAPI month, which was last month for the Asian. We have Black History Month, all kinds of things. But a lot of times when celebrating these, we forget the disabled gay people, the disabled Asian people, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So it's but yeah, we still get the looks and stuff like that. But that's one thing I loved about this movie was how it tackled ableism, how people were looked at. Like the other scene that made me mad was the wedding dress scene where the lady just wouldn't even let her try on the dress, where like the lady was like oh, it won't come for her or something like that. And I loved Lily's character, how she dealt with it with kindness and giving her a hug. Oh, whatever. So I'm sitting there going like, I don't know if I would have done the same thing. I would cuss her out. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's like you get tired of being nice and being silent, and you just want to like, be treated the same, but society does not treat you the same and stuff like that. But God, what was it like working with Lily and David DeSanctis? I mean,
oh, where do I start? I mean, it was an absolute beautiful, emotional, wonderful roller coaster every day. And to see, I'll start with Lily. She's a huge Hallmark fan, and her mom, a huge Hallmark fan. And so when they arrived, they already kind of knew who we were. They knew Peter. They'd seen my movies. They were like just so happy to go from being a fan of the network and the movies and having never even auditioned for a smaller role, and then all of a sudden being the lead. Lily would cry because she was so happy. Oh my God, it makes me, and I'd look over at her and she'd be up, and I was like, I thought, I don't know, did somebody hurt her? Did something happen on set? Because there's a lot going on, and it's a very busy, long day, and sometimes I get tired, as we all do. And I'd look over sometimes, and she'd be crying, and I'd say, "Are you okay?" And she was, "I just need a hug," and I like, did something happen? And she's like, "I'm just so happy for this opportunity. I never thought I would get to live this dream." And I was just like, Lily, it's amazing, and now she's doing the interviews and the things and everything. I'm just so proud and happy for them. And it just was such a beautiful reminder of the world we exist in, and getting to tell this story in particular. And then just even a reminder for me that what I do is special. She reminded me of that daily. And David came with such charisma and gusto and confidence, and he's just a firecracker of personality that I couldn't even handle sometimes. Dangerously, wickedly funny. Holy, the jokes he would tell, and the pranks they would play on each other. It was unbelievable. It was so much fun. And David had this ability, you know, as an actor working on these films, usually you don't have a lot of time in the day to be messing around between action and cut. You kind of like, after you can kind of play around and have fun, but you don't have a lot of time between action and cut. You kind of got to get in there, deliver, and kind of keep going, because we're moving very quickly, 15 days to shoot a film. But he would every take do something different, like Robert De Niro out there. You know, he's out there just taking chances, doing stuff, changing the lines, touching your face when you're like, oh, okay. And you just kind of go with it. And I haven't been challenged like that from another actor, I don't know, since doing theater. Like, I can't even think of the last time an actor was that free between action and cut. Usually everybody comes pretty prepared exactly what they're going to do, and they'll change it up a little bit between scenes. But I know some actors that come, this is exactly how I'm going to do it, and you have to work within the parameters of how I am going to do it. And you can decide if you want to or not. He comes in and just does something different every time, but every time is truthful. And that's the best type of acting. As long as it's rooted in reality and truthful to the moment, it works. And as you can tell in the edit in the end, it like really does. Is his little moments and quirks, and you know, like we spent a lot of time together, you know, brother from another mother. We got to you know, we had some really fun scenes, and you know, we would run the lines beforehand, because sometimes you know he could you know slip up on some lines here and there, as we all do, as I do all the time. So, you know, he liked to really kind of run lines, which I love to do as well. But then within that was the freedom once he got to set, it was so great to watch. He never got nervous. Like, I see actors get nervous all the time and maybe a little bit anxious if it's not working out. He could drop a line, do a thing. He'll be talking about something else while the camera's still rolling, come back in. Like, it was a masterclass. It was an acting masterclass. Both of them, they put on a clinic. We learned a lot.
Awesome. What it is, how your character got into David's life is something that touched me, because his family, you said that his family, his parents like died in a accident or whatever. So the thing that you said was, you said something like, you know, what would happen if you know they died or whatever. So that's where you stepped in. And that conversation has been like in my mind the past couple of years, especially because, and it's, you know, with the whole like, what if something happens to my parents, who's going to take care of me and stuff like that, and who's going to, because it's the disabled is a burden. It's a burden for family and not just friends, you know what I mean? And so it's like, so
it's got to be a big thing to think about.
Yeah. And I love that you guys introduced that, because a lot of times those are not talked about. It's like, who's going to take care of me, the disabled person, when their caregiver dies or whatever.
Right. And what I like in the film, the way they tackle that too, is, you know, it's easy to say, well, I see him once a month or kind of go in, but ultimately you know, Brad is so fun to be around, Nick says, that we kind of get together a lot. We play video games, go to movies, eat pizza, hang out, go to the arcade, because he's just so fun to be around, right?
Yeah.
And I liked that they went with that angle too. I mean, there are a lot of layers in this film when it comes to, you know, letting go, and then also in our story, just the fact that Nick stepped up, and Nick's whole family, extended family, stepped up to help him. You know, like, it's because, as you said, it's a big commitment. You know, so
yep.
You can move out here. We'll hang out with anything. Nothing will ever happen.
That's the other thing that I wish was actually reality, is your character, Dick, is a developer, and your project as a developer was to try to build, I guess, assisted living for like, or you know, independent living places for the disabled community. And I messaged you yesterday. I was like, I wish that was a real thing, you know, because.
So this is interesting. It actually is a real thing, and it's actually very much a real thing in my family. So it's actually through an in-law. So my brother's wife's aunt has a daughter that has Down syndrome, and she has Asperger's.
Mm.
So she is in an assisted living situation like that's in the film. And they built the first one in Vancouver.
Wow.
And she moved in while we were filming this movie.
Oh, wow.
So it's like this type of situation where they want independence. They want to live on their own, but they need help.
Yep.
And you need somebody who's there to check
just
in.
In case.
Just in case.
Right.
That's right, as a just in case. And also just for emotional and community support.
Yeah.
So they have what's called a community connector who makes sure that everybody knows everybody in the building. I actually think a community connector should exist in every apartment building and maybe every street. Somebody who's like, have you met who moved in over at 38? Come over and say hi. I think that would be great. So it was interesting that it was happening at the same time as while I was filming it. So I spoke with them a lot over the course of it to make sure that what I was saying and what Nick was doing rang true to the reality of what's currently being built, what just finished being built in Vancouver, and what is starting to be more common across the country.
When are they going to do it here?
Well, I don't know. There must be some across the U.S. Maybe not in Hawaii. I don't know. They're like, you're in Hawaii. You're
I know,
right?
All of the developers here are mainly for like the rich.
I know. Well, and that was something, as like it was. So originally, in the original script, Nick was walking around in like an open field where he was like envisioning what it could become. Now, finding some type of development that was in the process of being developed, where their houses are maybe half being built and roads aren't quite being put into film cinematically, they couldn't find a place.
Right.
So Peter came up with the incredible idea of, what about if we used a model home and just made it look like half of a chunk of that is what's being used, and we're like, oh, it just looks better, right? I was like, that's our like very Tim Burton kind of vibe, kind of inside the world like that. It's very Beetlejuice. So we ended up shooting there instead, which kind of gave it a much more polished vibe. But then we were like, well, this whole thing can't be assisted living. So some of it's going to have to be private, where people are buying so that it's for profit, so that you find a mix of not for profit and profit to make it make sense, that way that, evil developer is still doing some good and making money.
I know. I love and then now this movie is so great. There's like so many layers to it. I could talk to you for hours about this movie, but what is one thing that you would want viewers to take once when the movie is done, rolling credits are, on the TV, what would you want them to take from this?
It's such a great question, because I think depending on the viewer, they're going to take away something. You're going to take away something different than, let's say, a mother of a 22-year-old who just met a boy, right? And that whole thing of like that real letting go and trusting that it's time for that person. That's what I love is, while the film focused on the disability a little bit, it wasn't the focus of the film. No, it was mostly about their relationship and falling in love, and that it was brushed over. And there are those moments that we spoke about, but ultimately it's just about falling in love, trusting your instincts, and also, parents letting go, and also within yourself letting go and trusting that, everything will be okay. And it's easy to live in fear and be guarded and be anxious and have tantrums and live in a state of fear.
I actually told Paul this, interviewed Paul Campbell.
I love Paul Campbell. Yeah.
And I said to him, I was like, I would love a storyline where two disabled characters fall in love, but it's not a storyline that focuses on their disability. It's about them falling in love, but they also have a disability. So they're facing the same struggles, as an able-bodied people, as two able-bodied people who
Right.
are falling in love, but they just happen to have that extra struggle, if that makes sense.
What you just said was how they pitched it to me after I read the script. We did a Zoom kind of meeting.
Mhm.
It was Peter, Erica, myself, and our producers, John and Kim. John and Kim have been working on this for a very long time, and they said exactly that. We do not want to make a movie about disabilities. It is a love story where they happen to have disabilities.
Yeah.
And there will be moments of it throughout, but let's not make the movie about that at all. And let's be sure that we stay true to that, and make sure we find, at that point, we still didn't have, Lily and David cast, and they cast a wide net all across Canada, all across the US, lots of auditions, and they won those roles. They beat a lot of people for those roles. And I think that they were aware that that's what it was too, and they took a lot of pride in that. It felt, it was very special for them, and just getting to be involved in it and there to support them, and then and to support Erica, and for us to, that's what Pete kept saying, like, you're just going to come in, Ben, and be fun. You're just fun uncle. Come in, have some great scenes, make her fall in love with you, and get out. And it was just, and that's just what I got to do. And I just had so much fun with that.
I think that was what's so great about this movie, is the movie centered, in my opinion, is centered around David and Lily, and you and Erica were sort of the supporting actors, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah.
Like you were the secondary storyline. I felt like I was cheering on for Lily and David, and no offense, Erica.
No, of course, we're rooting for the two of them, and we're rooting for Emma, Erica's character, to grow, and allow that freedom in Kendall to grow, and the fact that she learns from her too, the way that Kendall sees the true beauty through art and not necessarily what everybody else sees, is what eventually Emma learns. And I think that that's just so beautiful that she's able to learn from her as well.
Sometimes with scenes with Erica, sometimes I wonder if my mom thinks the same, worries the same way, because she was like, oh, who's going to explain to them, safe sex and what, falling in love and all these other things. I'm sitting there going, like, did my mother ever worry about that?
Yeah. So again, that's what I worry about right now. So my eldest is 10. I got two daughters, and she's asked some big questions, and you do your best to answer them, and I try not to shy away as much as I want to. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for it, but they're taking it's sex ed class, right? So she's walking out of school. The walk home yesterday was a big walk, I'll tell you that. She was asking lots of questions, and and I'm trying to kind of tell her this because I got the other young one on the other side. She's like, what do you mean? How do you clean it? And I'm like, quiet. Anyway. Oh, man.
Kids. But yeah.
So that's just it. That's a parent anyway. That's just a parent, regardless of your child. That's just the way you're going to feel and think. So
I hope everybody else loved this movie as much as I do.
I think I'm so glad you did. It makes me so happy that you loved it. And I was nervous, and I'm just, like I said, I'm so happy for Lily and David to get to play these characters and to get to do it in a story that is just so beautiful for them to tell. But ultimately, I want to hear from you, and anybody else with a disability, that they connected to it and understood it, and that they also needed a box of tissues, as will everybody else.
I was on Facebook, and I told, I run a Facebook group for Hallmark, and I told several of my members, I was like, if you're disabled and you're going to watch this movie, trigger warning, because you're gonna like literally cry. You're gonna like, it's gonna hit you with reality. It's gonna hit you with some reality and stuff. And a lot of people were like, thank you for the trigger warning. But yeah, because it's whew, I mean, whew, Jesus, yeah.
It must have been. I mean, while it was, I imagine a much more cathartic experience for somebody like you. Did you still go? Did you still get the warm and fuzzies, and did you feel good at the end as well throughout the journey?
I loved the wedding. The wedding was so cute. It was adorable, and David running down the aisle to like, you know. I thought that was so sweet. And you know, reality is that, well, reality is that it's hard for disabled people to actually get married, because you lose your benefits if you marry another person. So that's not reality. But that's but I thought that was such a beautiful moment, and I love Lily in her dress. I was so mad when she was at the wedding shop and didn't get to try any of the dresses. I'm sitting there going like, that is like every girl's dream.
Yeah, I
know. To try wedding dresses. I was thinking to myself like, you know, Erica was like putting the dress on her next to her body, like to see it. I'm sitting there going like, put the dress on. I thought that was beautiful, and I love, like, you know, I think that your character, Nick, I feel like you helped Erica's character, you know, I guess trust and stuff, you know, trust Kendall, trust David's character, trust you, trust everything, trust her mom even, you know, and stuff like that. It was just like wonderful. It seems like you seem like you played like the good guys all the time. Like the perfect boyfriend / man. I mean, like the one who, like I said in the beginning, you're the guy who the mother falls in love with.
Well, I thank Hallmark for writing them for me.
Yeah. Well, do you have any future projects coming up? Are you doing another Christmas movie this year?
I'm sure I will be. I don't have one currently, but there's usually a phone call that happens 2 weeks before, and then it's like, here we go. I'm going to be out west. I'm actually working on a different series for a little while there for the summer in Vancouver. So I'm going to be out there anyway. And I did a Lifetime movie in December that was supposed to air Memorial Day weekend, but they have postponed it, which I think it will air now in the fall, which was a much different type of movie than a Hallmark movie. Called The Bad Seed, which was one you'll have to watch out for. I'll message you when it comes out. You might need tissues, but for different reasons. You want to cover your eyes.
Oh my God. No, I've noticed at Hallmark, like the Lifetime movies, outside of Christmas, it's like scary.
Yeah, I know.
Like murder and everything. But anyway. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining me.
You are so welcome.
So honored to like talk to you, and like you made it worth waking up.
Okay, good. I'm glad you enjoyed the coffee I brewed for you.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking me to Hawaii. It was really nice.
Much aloha.
Yeah, much aloha. Okay,
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.